Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me for another Alfred Hitchcock Presents review. Today I will be reviewing Season 2, Episode 35, The West Warlock Time Capsule, starring Henry Jones as George and Mildred Dunnock as Louise. And this is a perfectly acceptable, entertaining episode in my opinion. It's got kind of an odd premise to it, although I did think the twist was very predictable. I pretty much figured it out about halfway through the episode, but the episode is pleasant enough and has enough personality that it still worked for me. I thought it was a fine way to spend 25 minutes or so. So we start with George, our main character. He's a taxidermist, and it looks like he sells some of the things he makes, which is kind of interesting. It also turns out that he's working on a big project of stuffing this horse named Napoleon, and it's going to contain this time capsule in it that's supposed to be opened up in like 100 years, and I guess it's supposed to reflect like what society was like at that time period. Kind of an interesting process. At this point, George is also talking to a kid, and he gives us just a little more information on how, he goes about the whole process of his work. I thought it was fine. Then we're introduced to George's wife, Louise, and she talks about how her brother Waldron, who she hasn't seen in a long time, is going to be coming for a visit. So eventually Waldron comes by, but he's got nothing with him. It doesn't seem like he owns a lot or has a lot to his name. It also seems he's not feeling that well, or at least that's what he claims. We'll find out more about that later. So eventually George comes back and he meets Waldron, and he's immediately annoyed because Waldron is sitting in George's favorite chair, which was kind of an amusing scene. And basically this guy just does a lot of things to annoy George. So we go a week ahead in the future, and Waldron's still there. George tries to open a window, but Waldron starts like coughing and saying it bothers him. So George is getting more and more annoyed with this guy. He really wants Waldron gone, but he's not sure how to tell him without upsetting his wife. So at this point, we are shown George putting the time capsule inside of the horse, and that kid from the beginning of the episode is with him again. So at this point, George and Louise discuss Waldron leaving, but Louise gets really upset. She says she can't abandon her brother. She starts crying, but George is really worried about her health at this point. So eventually he finishes up with the horse. They show it finished, but when George gets back home, Louise has collapsed. He's very concerned, so he calls the doctor, who says there's nothing wrong with her other than she's just worn out from taking care of her brother Waldron so much. And the doctor also says at this point that there's nothing really wrong with Waldron, which I pretty much suspected the whole time. So George goes to talk to this guy Waldron, who doesn't seem to be too concerned about his sister or much else other than himself. But George has an idea, and I think we all know where this is headed at this point. George decides he's going to eliminate Waldron and put his body inside the horse, and hope that it's not discovered for 100 years. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how our episode ends, with Waldron's body inside the horse, although Alfred Hitchcock tells us in the closing narration that the body was discovered, and it was probably a surprise when the horse was opened up and there was more than just a time capsule in there. So overall, like I said, the West Warlock time capsule, it's kind of an amusing, okay, passable episode. There's nothing great or riveting about it. It's not really that suspenseful, and the twist is pretty predictable, but it's a fast enough moving episode, and I didn't mind watching it. I thought it was just a solid episode all the way around. So I'm going to give the West Warlock time capsule a 3 out of 5, and I do recommend this episode. I think it's enjoyable enough for fans of the show, and it's a little bit different from other episodes so far in the series. So 3 out of 5 for the West Warlock time capsule, and as always, thank you very much for watching.